Aha, we're finally here. Hello, everyone, and apologies yet again for another late start of a HOPS virtual workshop. I promise you, I have been sitting here in front of my laptop with nothing but HOPS Live ready to go since about 6:45. We did the sound test, we did everything. At 1 minute to 7, I pressed the button, and what a shock, it didn't work. So I'm very sorry that we're late, as always, and I think what we might do is we might advertise these things to start at 7:10 in future, and then we'd actually end up starting them on time. But sorry, everyone, again, you know me, never on time. So hello to everybody that's tuning in. Thank you very much for tuning in to my usual favourite audience, Alistair Baker from Bressingham, Mark Collinson, from the Mid-Norfolk, Phil McIver from Telford, Adrian Coveney, hello from Chinner, Rory from the East Lancs, hello Rory. So we'll just give everyone a moment to join because I can't exactly complain if people aren't here yet when it was 7:05 before I managed to get started. So I hope everyone's okay. Do say hello in the comments of what your name is and where you've come from, and I'll say hello to you. In some cases I can see when people are watching, but I don't think in all. Hello Leslie Lee, where are you from? I don't think that's a name I've heard before. Hello Kate from the Epping Ongar, nice to see you there again. Bill Velos, hello Bill, ex-Reading panel. Rob Kitley. Andy Green from Cambrian Heritage Railways, you're definitely a regular viewer, hello to you. Hello Richard Lemon and David Well from Chinner. Excellent. Well, we have got up to numbers quite quickly. If you weren't here right at the beginning, then I did when I finally started at 7:05. Just to say again, apologies for the late start. It's just always the way. Oh, Rory, you've got your own mutual improvement. Okay, well, make sure you watch it back afterwards. As always is the case, the workshop will still be on Facebook on the video and also uploaded to YouTube after it's taken place. So obviously you can catch up with us afterwards. So apologies for the late start, everybody. Usual gremlins in the system, and I'm glad that HOPS isn't the only system that ever has gremlins, but there we go. So today is HOPS Virtual Workshop number 7 on HOPS question papers, which is an extension of the competence management system. You know the script by now. What you can see in front of you is a completely fake version of HOPS with fake data in it that I use for delivering training and taking screenshots and things like that. But just before I get on to talking about question papers, I want to do a little PS from the video that I did on Monday about post-COVID competence assurance, because there was one thing that was on my list of things to say, and I didn't say it, and that is that the ticks and crosses, you remember the red and green ticks and crosses that you see on the department competence matrix and in the shakedown and everything else, there they are again, same as last week, they also appear on the construct roster pages. So when you're looking at the roster, or when the roster clerk is looking at the roster, because the ticks and crosses don't affect the competence that's recorded in the system, and as you remember, we've got this sort of two-phase thing where somebody might be shown as competent in HOPS, but it's got a red cross next to it because they haven't been refreshed yet. The ticks and crosses show on the roster as well to give the roster clerk half a clue as to who to roster. And it may be the case that even though somebody's got a red cross on a particular day, they've got a turn 3 days before that where they're going to be refreshed, and then it'll become a green tick. It's never going to be a 100% straightforward, easy solution, unfortunately, resuming from this COVID thing. So the ticks and crosses are what we came up with. But I just forgot to say last time that the ticks and crosses do appear on the construct roster tab as well. Not the view roster tab, only the construct roster tab. Oh, hello to lots of other people that have joined. Ben Angus from Keith and Dufftown, hello to you. Stuart Mulliner from the Embsay and Bolton Abbey Railway. Chris Taggart on the Isle of Wight, hello Chris. Eben Potgaita, sorry I haven't said your name correctly, I'm sure, hello to you. Mark Anthony Wilson from the Gloucestershire, Warwickshire, hello. Jeff Mentsard from the Epping Ongar, and Tom Bailey popping in, but working tonight. Well, I suppose that's an excuse, but exactly as Tom has identified, he can catch up. And all these videos remain on Facebook after they've taken place and are also uploaded to YouTube. Right, let's move on with the business of the day then, talking about question papers in HOPS. And question papers live here in the competence menu. there's question papers here in the competence menu. So I'll click on question papers, and what we're going to do first of all is we're going to build a new question paper. We'll build one, then we'll put our minds in the frame of somebody taking the question paper, and then we'll show you how you edit it and things like that. So here's a list of my question papers here in the admin tab, the question papers that I've previously created. So when you first look at this, obviously it'll have 0 question papers on it. And you'll click the Add New button right down here at the bottom. So I'll click on Add New, and we're going to make a new question paper here, and we're going to make it on train preparation. Train preparation. So we give it a title. We can also display some, put in some text that's going to be displayed to users at the start when they come to take this question paper. So we could put in, for example, this is the test on train preparation that you should take after studying rulebook module 6, or whatever you want to put. There's also an assessor's description. This isn't shown to the candidate, but if you've got numerous question papers, this is an ideal place to make a distinction in the identity between them without having to put silly suffixes and things like that on the paper name, which is going to be shown to the candidate. So my assessor's description could be that this is the 2020 new test after rulebook version 2, or whatever other remarks you want to write on to indicate to you what this question paper is about. There's a few little tick boxes down the bottom here, whether the candidate should be shown their score as soon as they finish the question paper, whether the candidate should be shown their answers as soon as they finish the question paper, and whether the candidate should be shown the correct answers as soon as they finish the question paper. And it's totally up to you which of those that you tick. Sometimes you might want the person to gain that immediate feedback of which questions they got right and which questions they got wrong. And sometimes you might want to keep that information to yourself to make sure that it's not shared around with other candidates who are going to take the test, in order that they can know what the right answers are, because somebody else they know has already taken the test. So I'm not going to tick any of those boxes for now. But I'll press save, and it'll save this new question paper. And as you can see, there's the details that I just entered. Now, each question paper can have as many questions as you like in it, and those questions are broken down into pages. So the user will step through these pages, and it's better if you've got 36 questions to have 6 pages with 6 questions on each one, rather than one great big long massive test with 36 questions on. There's a few reasons for that. One is that it's a bit more encouraging for the user as they move along through the pages to go, oh, I'm on page 4, I'm nearly there. Also, every time the user advances through a page, their answers are saved. So if they're all on one page, they've got to do all 36 before their answers are saved, and obviously anything could happen in the meantime. So by splitting them down into a sensible number of pages, the test is a bit, I think it runs a bit better. So we've got no pages at the moment, no pages at all. And just to explain some of the details on this page of the website, it says each page is presented to the user separately, and pages are presented in the order shown. The question paper is currently in draft, and edits will only take effect in version 1. So we're in a draft at the moment, and this versioning of question papers is really important, as we'll find out as we go along. So we're currently only in draft, as you'd expect. And there are currently no pages in this question paper. So I'm going to add a page by going Add New. And this page, I'm going to call it Preparation of Coaches. There's a few properties of the page here. Obviously, this page is going to have our half a dozen or however many you want questions on to do with the preparation of coaches. We can select whether we want the questions on the page to be in a fixed order or a randomized order. And in some cases, it'll be appropriate to do one, and in some cases, it'll be appropriate to do the other. Certainly, if your questions lead on from each other, they'll have to be in a fixed order. If question 1 says, what should you do in this? And question 2 says, further to the previous question, if you can't do that, what should you then do? Obviously, the questions are going to have to be in a fixed order. But if all the questions stand up on their own and it doesn't matter what order they're in, maybe randomizing them helps lessen the possibility that people will share answers between them. You could also specify the order of the page in the question paper, and if you just leave it blank, they'll just appear in the order that you entered them into the system. And you can also select how many questions of the questions on this page should actually be shown. And if you leave it at blank, they'll all be shown, which is probably the normal requirement. But if you put 6 questions on this page, but then you put 4 in the questions to show box, it'll randomly pick 4 out of the 6 questions and just give the user those 4. So that's very appropriate if you're testing the candidate's ability to on addition, and your 6 questions are what's 2 plus 2, 2 plus 3, 4 plus 2, 5 plus 1, and 3 plus 3. And you just give the candidate 3 out of those 5, because they're all testing the same thing, but it just shakes it up a bit so that everyone doesn't get the same test. But if your questions are on maths, and your 6 questions are what's 2 plus 2, 2 times 2, 2 divided by 2, and 2 minus 2, then giving the user a random selection of 3 out of those 5 is not going to test them on all of the different permutations of maths. So you have to be a little bit careful about how you allocate the questions to a page and what the questions are if you're going to use the feature for selecting a number of questions out of the total number of questions. Pretty much all the questions on the page have to be assessing the same thing, and you just want the user to have 4 different examples out of the 6 that you've given. So I'm not going to put anything in there for the moment. I'll save the page. There's my new page, preparation of coaches. And apart from the heading here, preparation of coaches, all of the rest of the values are in grey, and that's because the test is only in draft at the moment, so nothing here is live yet. It's all in draft, so it's all in grey. And I'm going to add another page to the test, and I'm going to call this preparation of trucks. Preparation of trucks. Okay, and save. So there's my 2 pages. Now I'm going to put the questions in. Remember, the questions live in the pages. So I'll go first of all to preparation of coaches. There are no questions, so I'll add a new question. It knows already that it's going in the section preparation of coaches, because that's where I was in the system. I can change it at this stage if I want to, but it's unlikely that I'll want to. I'm going to add in the body of the question. And the body of the question this time, for this question, is going to be, we must check the brakes. So actually, it's not worded as a question in this case. It's been worded as a statement, because there are many different types of question that you can have. You can have true or false, which is what this one's going to be, multiple choice, number answer, text answer, or yes or no. And I'm going to do 5 questions in this example, and I'm going to do 1 of each type of question so that you can see all the different types of question. So we must check the brakes is going to be a true or false question. And you have to tell the system, obviously, what the correct answer is, and the correct answer is going to be true. You can, if you want to, specify an order that the question will appear in the page, which is obviously only relevant if you haven't selected random order. But again, if you just leave it blank, it'll put the questions in the order that you enter them. So I'm going to leave it blank, and I'm going to save. And there's the question that I've just added. We must check the brakes. It's a true or false question. The correct answer is true. And again, it's all in grey because we're all in draft at the moment. And a little clue here, this text in green, is that it's actually going to be added in the next version of this paper. But we'll get to versions in a second. I'm going to add another question now, and this is going to be a yes-no question. Okay, what can I put for this one? No, actually, sorry, this is going to be a multiple choice one. I have got notes of what I'm trying to get through. So this is going to be, what must we check? What must we check? That could be a question, and this one's going to be multiple choice. And the multiple choice answers that I'm going to give the candidate are going to be doors, windows, seats, and signals. Okay, and obviously this is a preparation of trains test. This is all to do with the preparation of coaches. So we'll tick which of these answers are correct in the preparation of trains, doors, windows, and seats, but not signals, not in the preparation anyway. So you can enter as many answer options as you like, and as many of them can be correct or incorrect as you like. If you want to add more than 4, save the question and edit it again. You'll get 4 more boxes. And you can choose whether or not to reveal to the candidate how many correct answers there are. And if you select that, that you do want to reveal how many correct answers there are, the candidate will be forced to pick 3 or pick fewer than 3 and tick the don't know box, which we'll come to in a second. If we don't tick to reveal how many correct answers there are, then HOPS can't enforce that the user picks the right number of answers. And if they only tick 2, it'll have to let them carry on, because if it stopped them and said, oh no, hang on a minute, you've got to pick one more answer, that would be revealing how many correct answers there are. So in what I see in HOPS, in most cases, users have ticked the reveal how many correct answers there are box. So again, I'll save this one. Okay, and my last question on this page is going to be a number question. And my question for number answer is going to be, how many feet long is a short Mark 1 coach? Mark 1 coaches come in 2 lengths, but where's number answer gone? There it is, number answer. And the correct answer altogether is 57. And I'd like to think that I knew that already, but I didn't. I looked it up. Okay, so number answer, enter the correct answer in the box and save. So there's my 3 questions that I've added so far in the preparation of coaches page of the train preparation question paper. Just a few more comments that have come in. Hello to Alex Seal, watching from Exeter. Hello, Liz Parks. Hello, Kate Pickersgill, who's asked a question here. Is there a facility to import questions from a Word document or similar? Admittedly, it may be easier to copy and paste. I think it will be easier for you to copy and paste. If you've got loads of these and it is really going to be extremely onerous for you to do that copy and paste, then it's possible that I could be able to import them for you if we can manipulate what you've already got into a format that can be interpreted as data. So it depends on what you've got a little bit. So I think copy and pasting will be easier. If it's going to take you a very, very long time to do that, then get in contact with me and we'll see what you've got and whether I can do it for you. Amanda Thorpe, hello. Amanda Thorpe has said the reveal how many correct answers function is invaluable. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you like it. Thank you very much. Right, I'm not going to add any more questions in the preparation of coaches page of this question paper. I'm going to go back to train preparation and I'm going to add some questions into the preparation of trucks page of the question paper. So what types of question have we not had so far? I think we've had true, false. I don't think we, oh dear, I've forgotten now. Hang on a second, let me go back and have a look. I should have made better notes. So we've had true or false, multiple choice, and number. True or false, multiple choice, and number. Let's go back to train preparation, preparation of trucks, add a new question. So we'll have a text-based question this time. And the text-based question is going to be describe the process for checking the handbrake on a plank wagon. You decide what the questions are, and the art of writing questions is an art to master. So as I'm sure anyone who's ever written a test paper before will know, sometimes it's really difficult to come up with the way to ask the question to get the answer you want. I'm pleased to say that's nothing to do with HOPS. You have to write the questions the way you want them. So I picked text answer this time, and the text answer for this question is going to be wind the brake on, check the, whoops, onto another line, check the blocks have applied, wind the brakes off, check the blocks have released. I'm sure that in reality it's more complicated than that, but that's what we're going to put for this one. And for this type of question, a text answer question, you have to specify the number of points that are available, because these are the sorts of questions where a candidate is going to have to write, you know, what would you do next, or describe the process of, and there's probably going to be more than one mark at stake here. So we'll say that there's 6 marks. Oh no, let's say there's 4 marks, because I've written 4 things. We'll say there's 4 marks for this question. And save. Okay, and one more, last but not least, what's the type of question we haven't had? We haven't had yes or no. So the yes/no question, what could we have for this? When preparing a train, must we check that the loads are properly Secured. Yes, no question. Correct answer, of course, is yes. And save. Hello to Peter Howe at the Neen Valley Railway, I think, apologies if that's wrong, who says, we can never find you at the start time, even when sitting on hops, so we joined late. Well, I'm very sorry, it's not your fault, it's my fault, because we started late and we always seem to start late, so I do apologize for that. If you did miss part of the beginning, the videos are all on hops and they're uploaded to YouTube shortly after they're broadcast live, so you can watch them back there to see the beginning. Adrian Coveney from Chinner asks, how many points is a multiple choice question worth with more than one correct selection? It's worth 1 point for every correct selection. So if there's 3 correct answers, it's worth 3 points. If there's only 1 correct answer, it's worth only 1 point. Right, so I've added my my 5 questions there, 3 in the first page of the test paper and 2 in the second page of the test paper. Remember I said this is all in draft, that's why it's all in light grey, and it says up here the question paper is still in draft. When we're happy that we've written as much of the question paper as we're going to, very similar to publishing a roster, we'll publish the question paper. But unlike a roster, where once you've published it, all updates take place immediately, with question papers, there is a versioning system. So you publish it once, you can't edit that version anymore, you can only start a new version. And that will become clear as to why as we go along. But I'm ready to publish this now onto version 1, so I'll go back to the train preparation menu. I'll go to the paper details and I'll edit them. And remember, this is where I started, where I wrote in the title and everything else. And now there's a new box at the bottom here, version, current version 0, increment to version 1. So I'll tick the box and press save, and version 1 is now committed. And in fact, if I go and look at the pages, they're all now in dark black, not in grey. And if I look at the questions, they're now in dark black, not in grey, because this paper is now ready to go. It's ready to be taken by a candidate. So how do we approach how the candidate actually comes along and takes the paper? Well, question papers are an extension of the competence management system. Particularly, they're an extension of the competence element part of the competence management system. So there's competence elements in the competence menu on the left-hand side. And just to be clean here, we're going to start a new element called train preparation. And if you remember from when we talked about competence management in HOPS, the elements should be the components that people need in order to have a competence. Every separate assessment, ideally, should be a separate element. So if in order to be a guard, you have to do an observation assessment on train preparation and another one on ticket checking and another one on protecting the line in an emergency and all those things, in the ideal most world, each of those things that people are assessed on separately will be a separate element. I know in reality, you know, they're joined together in some ways and whatnot, but our train preparation assessment, whether somebody takes it on HOPS or on paper, is going to be an element in its own right. Just to go back to a question, sorry, when I started talking about how many points each question was worth, can you define a question? This is asked by Chris Taggart, sorry, at the Isle of Wight. Thank you, Chris. Can you define a question with only one answer to have more than 1 mark? No, I'm afraid you can't. But maybe that's a development that we can make in the future. But at the moment, that's the rule. Everything except, multiple choice is 1 point for every correct answer. Text-based answer, you can specify how many points it is, and every other type of question is worth 1 point. So making a new element here, this is nothing to do with question papers. This is just to do with our competence management. We'll put it in the group of safety. We'll make the owner me. And all the usual things, default competence length, all that stuff. Down the bottom here in advanced options is the special element facility. And question paper is one of the types of special element. A special element has its behavior modified in specific ways. And we're going to modify this question paper, this competence element to behave as a question paper. So when we selected question paper element, some extra fields appear down the bottom here to ask us which question paper we want to apply to this element. And there it is in the list. Oh, I forget you can't see the list, but there's loads of ones in the list here that I'm changing now. And if I pick train preparation That's the question paper that will be linked to this element. You can come back and change it later, that's no problem. So if you have 3 different train preparation question papers and you circulated them around every so often, that's no problem at all. Or if you decide that train preparation is no longer going to be assessed by that question paper and you've made a completely new one, that's absolutely fine. You can come back here and change it, no problem at all. And the other option that we've got here is users may take up to blank days before expiry. Because remember, a competence element, just like all competencies, is going to have an expiry date when somebody's going to need to come around and take the test again, or at least it potentially could have an expiry date where someone can come around and take the test again. So this is the option of how many days before their current competence ends is the user allowed to come back and take the test in order to renew it for their next period. And the answers that I nearly always see in here are 30 days and 60 days, 1 month and 2 months. And again, it's totally up to you what you put in there. If you don't want users to be able to automatically come along and retake the question paper when they're getting near to their expiry, and instead you want to explicitly give it to them, which I'll show you how to do in a second, you can leave that at 0, and obviously that won't happen. But I'm going to put it at 30 and I'm going to press save. Now, where's it gone? Let's train preparation. Oh, I already had a train preparation element. I've got 2 now. That's not very good. So there's the train preparation element that I just created. And it works in exactly the same way as a normal element does. It's just that we're attaching this question paper to it. So a user is going to be able to do that question paper if one of 2 things exists. Either they are given a competence award with the status of awaiting question paper completion. And that's not a status that we've talked about before. We've talked about not competent and assessor. But if the element has a question paper linked to it, then you can do there's an extra status that appears of awaiting question paper completion. We'll award it to a user, so I'll award it to myself. And because, and sorry, if you remember on competence elements, you can add it to more than 1 user at a time by use of this add box, and you can add it to loads of users all at the same time. So I'll save this. A competence status of awaiting question paper evaluates to a no, not competent in competence decision making logic in HOPS, but it's just a way of getting somebody into that cycle for the first time. Because if the only way that they could ever take a test was if they were within X days of expiry, how do they ever take it to start with? So this should only ever be necessary to do once, when the first time the candidate needs to do the test comes along. Every time after that, hopefully you'll use that they can do it X days before it expires, and you won't have to come back to the competence element and give them that awaiting QP again. Adrian Coveney from Chinna has asked, we get the evidence requirements part of the display. Oh, right, okay, let's go back to that. Sorry, let's just go back a step so we can have a look at this. On the competence element, there's this evidence and file requirements box, and Adrian asks what it does and why it's there. Well, whatever you add into that box will appear, I say with my fingers firmly crossed, will appear here on the Files and Evidence tab of the detail of competencies that are awarded in this element. And the reason is so that you've got here what the requirements are, and here underneath what evidence you've actually got. And it makes it a lot easier to compare what you've got with what the requirements actually are. So that's the only thing it does. It appears there as a reminder to, well, A, those who are uploading files, but B, those who are auditing them, what the file requirements actually are. So I'm imagining that field would say things like observation report, written assessment, and certificate, or something like that. What the evidence requirements are for that competence element. Right, so let me go back a step now, back to my train preparation competence element. There it is. And we awarded 1 user, which was me, Danny Scroggins, a status of awaiting question paper. If we now put ourselves in the mind of the candidate rather than of the person creating the test, There are two ways in which the candidate gets to the test. One is that it appears here on the right-hand side if they've got one waiting for them. So there's the one that I just did, train preparation. And the reason it says train preparation is because it's the name of the element and then the name of the question paper. And in this case, they just happen to be the same thing. They can also go to the competence menu and go to question papers. And the first tab that comes up is these are the question papers waiting for you to complete. And there's the train preparation one that I just created. I know what you're all about to ask, which is, can it automatically send them an email to let them know when it's ready to take? And yes, one day I'll get round to doing that, but at the moment, I'm afraid, no, it doesn't. Adrian has further commented on his question about evidences. It would be useful on the update screen to prompt assessors to submit the evidence. Well, that does happen on competencies now, where the default position is that you're taken to the files page to upload it. But I haven't made the same change on elements yet, I'm afraid. Anyway, so here we go. We will, this train preparation paper is available from now. So I'll press view and off we go. So we're now in the mind of the candidate taking the question paper. So there's always this first page which just explains how the paper works. It's the train preparation paper, it's version number 1. Here's the notes for the compiler. Remember that we typed when we first created the question paper, so that's where that appears. It tells them how many pages there are in the test to complete and lists out what they are. So again, it says that because that's what we typed in, those 2 pages. It explains that there are 5 different types of question. It also explains that there will be a pass, don't know box on each question, and that HOPS will helpfully remind them if they try to move on without either answering a question or pressing pass or don't know, that they've obviously forgotten to do something there. So hopefully we don't get to the end of the test and lose some points because we didn't read one of the questions properly. Adrian is asking question. Right, Adrian. Okay, I think I'll have to come back to you personally on some of these things about files and evidence because I want really to concentrate on talking about question papers during this video. So let's talk offline about the ins and outs of files and evidence on question papers. It also explains here that there is no time limit. And it explains that you must not use your browser forwards and backwards buttons because if you remember I said each time the user moves between a page, their answers are saved. And if they use their browser forwards and back buttons, then that saving is not going to happen. Right, and when the user is ready, we'll press start. So press start. And I keep hinting at this version of the question paper. And of course, in a minute, we're going to have a version 2, and I'll show you how to update it. But the user gets the version of the test that's applicable at the moment they press that start button. So even if you as the assessor come along and change the test while the candidate is taking the paper, they've got paper number 1, version number 1. It's exactly the same as if you printed it out on the printer and give it to them on paper. The fact that you're then editing the Word document on your computer is not going to edit the bit of paper that they've got on the desk in front of them. So that's the sort of the logic that I followed there. So here are the familiar questions. Here are the familiar questions that we entered. So first of all, with what must we check? And notice here there are 3 correct answers. So you must pick at least 3, or sorry, you must pick exactly 3 or fewer than 3, and pass or don't know. So we will say that we can remember doors and we can remember windows, but we can't remember what the third thing is, so we'll tick pass or don't know. And when you highlight over, if you notice, the answers are green and the don't know is blue, and for true or false ones, the negative answer, false or no, is red. I'm hoping that you can see the highlighting on the screencast, but just to help the user with where the mouse is, they don't actually have to be on the button to press it. They can be all the way over here. To make it a lot easier for people to tick the right button. So question 2 was, we must check the brakes. We'll say that was true. And how many feet long is a short Mark 1 coach? I remember now. Whoops, not 27, 57. And just to confirm, sorry, if I untick my true from that question, question 2, so I haven't answered the question, and I try and go save and continue, I don't think you'll be able to see the pop-up box on the screencast, but a pop-up box from the browser has popped up to say that you haven't answered question 2, you must answer it, or pick pass or don't know. So I'll now answer it, and I'll save and continue. And if I suddenly then thought, oh, no, I didn't mean to answer that one, I can go back Oops, sorry. Okay, I can't go back until I've completed this page. Okay, I will be able to go back and change my answer, and I can go backwards and forwards through the test as much as I like until I press the finish button that we'll get to in a minute. Describe the process for checking the handbrake on a plank wagon. Oh, I can't remember. Do you look at it closely and check for spiders, let's say, because I can't remember that part of my training. And question 2, when preparing a freight train, we must check that loads are properly secured. Yes, I think we should do that. Right, I will be able to go back. Sorry, it wouldn't let me save that page because I hadn't completed it, which I realise is a bit of a shortcoming, but one day I'll sort that out. So actually, I've now remembered that it is seats, but I'm not sure about windows, so I'll change my answer there, and I can go backwards and forwards as much as I like through the test. And see there, it did save my answers to page 1 and 2. When I went back to page 1, all my answers were there. Now I've come to page 2, my answers are still here. And at the top here, it tells the user what page they're on out of how many pages that there are. Again, just so that they know how they're progressing through the test and they can manage their expectations and their effort accordingly. I'm on page 2 of 2, and I've answered every question, so I'll press save and continue, and I get this final confirmation page that says you can still go back and check your answers, but when you are happy with your answers, you must press the finished button, and you cannot change any answers after you've pressed the finish button. So yeah, I'm happy with the answers. I'll press the finished button, and I'll get a very blank page, because remember, when we set this test up, we didn't tick any of the boxes to say show the user their scores at the end, or their answers, or the correct answers. Certainly for question papers that have got text answers in them, which require a human to mark, as we'll see in a second, probably best not to show the candidate their scores at the end, because the text-based questions won't have been marked at that stage, and they'll get a low mark, which might not be a true reflection of their final mark, and that might cause them to get a bit upset. So I tend to stick to not showing the candidates their scores. A question has been asked about do they keep their element at competence if you use the auto offering of tests? If they are competent in the element and you're using the thing whereby they can retake the test X days before it expires, then yes, nothing happens X days before their current competence expires to their competence. It still stays as competent. It's just that the test becomes available for them to take. But if you intentionally put them on awaiting question paper completion, then they're not competent. Awaiting question paper counts as a not competent. I hope that clears that up. If that's not the question that you intended me to answer, then please put some detail in, and I'll answer it again. Right, so I've taken this test now as the guard or whoever it is who's doing train preparation, and my job is done. Okay, I can now go home happily, and it's back over to the assessor to do something with the answers that I've given. So we'll put ourselves in the frame of the mind frame of the assessor again now. Oh, and incidentally, at the moment I pressed finish and got to this page, the assessor will have got an email saying Danny Scroggins has just completed his train preparation test. You need to go and sort it out, please. Because there's nothing worse, is there, than when you put your effort into doing an assessment and it takes the assessor ages to get round to marking it, and you think, oh, come on, I want to know how I did. So anyway, back in the mind frame of the assessor now, we'll go to the question papers menu. Question papers part of the competence menu, and current was the tab where it showed us which question papers are waiting for us. And if you notice, the train preparation one now says completed, waiting for assessor. Just before I move on, because I'll forget otherwise, this middle one here, so it says started with a date and then resume. If the user can abandon their test at any point, obviously if they haven't saved the answers of the page they're on, they'll lose them. So it's recommended definitely to complete a page, press go to next, and then close the browser or log out of HOPS or do whatever it is. And all the answers will have been saved up to that point, and when they press resume, it'll take them up to the stage they got when they left off. I just thought I'd say that then, otherwise I'll forget. So this current tab, there was the question papers that were waiting for us. The admin tab was where we created the question papers. These two tabs in the middle here are what we're going to look at now. Now, normally you'll look at marking first and then papers received, but I'm going to look at papers received first. Here's all the question papers that have been done that you've got permission to see that haven't yet been reviewed. The word that we use is reviewed. So at the moment, although that candidate has completed that question paper, it hasn't made any difference to their competence whatsoever. They're waiting for the question paper to be reviewed by the assessor. So there's the one that I just did, dispatching trains, the date and time that I started it and the date and time that I ended it. Is that the one that I just did? No, it isn't. Sorry, it's this one down here, train preparation. The date and time that I started it and the date and time that I ended it, and a button that says review. So we will press review. A question has just come in from the Chinna Railway, very keen HOPS users at the Chinna Railway. When the test becomes available to take 30 days before, does the link appear on the homepage? Yes, it does. Yes, it appears there at all times when the test is available to take. And Liz Parks from the North Yorkshire Moors Railway says, we use this for personal track safety theory tests and it's great. Well, thank you, Liz. £5 is in the post. Personal track safety is something that I see loads of railways using the HOPS question paper for the theory part of it. It really does suit that well, but you can use it for anything. So here's the review page. We're now reviewing that assessment that the candidate just did. So here's all the questions again. So the first question was, we must check the brakes. There's the correct answer, true. The answer the candidate gave was true, so they've got a green tick and they've scored 1 out of 1. What must we check? There's the correct answer, doors, windows, seats, and not signals. They ticked doors, so they got a green tick. They missed windows, so they got a red cross. And they ticked seats, so they got a green tick. If they'd also ticked one of the ones that was incorrect, if they ticked signals, it would also appear here, but obviously they wouldn't score a point for it, but it would at least show you, the assessor, that they which ones they ticked and which ones they didn't. So they only scored 2 out of 3 for that one. And because they only scored 2 out of 3, I would recommend that you give them some feedback. And you can put in this little box here what the assessor's remarks are. And the assessor's remarks could be anything from, you need to brush up on this, or I discussed this with the candidate and we've agreed where he went wrong and they misread the question and she's going to go away and read the rule book, and all those sorts of things. Whatever you want to put, this is where you put it. It's a very small box, but you can put in as much as you like and it will just scroll down. It's just a small box so that it fits on the page. And it's always my recommendation, for anything the candidate gets wrong, write some feedback. Because in a minute, you're going to make a competence decision based on this question paper and potentially other factors as well. And in the future, that competence decision might get tested. And it might get tested in one of the questions that they answered wrong. It might be something they did wrong to do with Windows. And in order to put yourself and the company in a good position of defense, even though there's evidence here they didn't get the question right, we need evidence over here in the assessor's remarks to say, even though they got that question wrong, we still made them competent. Here's the reason why. Here's the rationale. Here's what we did. Here's what we discussed. Or here's the follow-up action that we took. How many features are Mark 1 coach? 57, 1 out of 1, so no feedback required there. Describe the process for checking the handbrake. This was the text-based question. So there's the correct answer. There's the answer that they gave, and the result is still TBA because it hasn't been marked yet, which is why I said normally you'll go to mark before you come here, but there's a specific reason why I've come here first. I'm deliberately showing that I'm going to try and short circuit that process and it's not going to work. So at the moment their score is question mark out of 4. Don't know how many out of 4 they've got there. And the last one, when preparing a freight train, must we check that the loads are properly secured? The correct answer is yes. The answer they gave was yes, so they got a green tick and they got 1 out of 1. Down at the bottom here, here's a little summary. But of course, remember that there's a question that hasn't been marked in here yet, so this isn't going to be the final score yet. Broken down by section, a little bar chart to show how close they were to 100% and a total. At the bottom, you can write in some general remarks. Generally a good effort, but please try to brush up on this, that. Okay, again, whatever you want to write that justifies your feedback from this test. And at the bottom here, there's a tick box. Sorry, there's a drop-down box, and at the moment you can see it says not finished marking. Leave in the papers received list, and that's the only option in this checkbox. Okay, there's nothing else there for me to select. So I'm gonna, and it even says down the bottom here, you cannot mark the paper as reviewed, which is what we would have liked to have done because some questions have not been marked. Okay, well, that's fair enough. I've pressed save and all my feedback has been saved. So again, if I go here, review, there it is all saved. But I can't get rid of it out the papers received list. And that's because there's that text question in there, which the system can't mark, a human has to mark. So what I should have done first is go to marking. Here's all the questions that I've got permission for, all the question papers that I've got permission for, and questions that need marking. So there's one answer to that question. So I'll click here. There's the question. Ta-da-la. There's the answer. And there's how many points are available. And if a whole team of people had done this paper, then all of their answers would be laid out here. So I can mark all of the question, or all of the answers to this question in one go, and then all of the answers to the next question in one go. Rather than me going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 through everybody's paper, it actually makes much more sense for me to go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 and mark everybody's question 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 and mark everybody's question 2. The only reason why we don't normally do that is because normally it's on paper and it would be very difficult to do that on paper. But this is a computer and so it's much easier. So Danny Scroggins took this test. There's the answer that he gave. Look closely and check for spiders. Well, yeah, that's close, but it's not really good enough, so we'll give him only a 1. And we'll put in the remarks, and the remarks could say, you've completely missed the point of this question. What we actually wanted you to do was wind the brakes on, check the blocks have applied, wind the brakes off, and check that they've released. What you did was checking for spiders. Whatever you want to put, that's your feedback opportunity. And of course, there'll be a feedback opportunity for every candidate. So we'll press Save Marks. It's now disappeared off the marking list, and now would be the time to go to the papers received list. And this time we will be able to finish it off. So I'll press Review. All my feedback that I wrote last time is still there, but if you notice now, there's the score that I just gave the person when I was doing the marking, 1 out of 4. And I've already written some feedback and it's there. I can change it now if I want to. It's the same feedback. But this time when I go to the bottom, there's another option in the drop-down box now. You can see here there's only 2. That's the one we had last time, not finished marking, leaving papers received list. This time we're going to say finished marking, proceed to update element. Here's a really important point about HOPS question papers. When I press save, it's going to mark the question paper as reviewed, and it's going to take me to the normal page where I update competence elements. HOPS is not going to, and is never going to, make a competence decision based on the answers that the candidate gave to that test. The candidate can put in all their answers. A human assessor from the railway then has to look at it, review it in HOPS's terms, and then explicitly update the competence. And I'm never ever going to make it that the question paper leads automatically to an updated competence, because I just think that that would be a very risky way to go, that the candidate could obtain a competence just by interaction with the system and not by interaction with a human assessor. So when we've done that review and we've written whatever feedback we want to, and if they've got all the answers right, maybe we don't need to issue any feedback. We just go straight to the bottom and press save, and it'll take us to the normal page, the normal, completely normal page, where we update the competence to whatever we've decided it's going to be. And regardless of what score the person got in the question paper, we could decide that they're competent, or we could decide that they're not competent. And certainly I've done a lot of assessing before, and I always say, it doesn't matter what you get in the question paper, it's what I determine your competence to be at the end that matters. So you can get 100% in the question paper, but if I don't think you understand it, I'm still going to mark you not competent. Or you could get 90% or 80% or 70% in the question paper, and then we can have a discussion about it afterwards. And if I believe as the assessor that you do actually understand what you're talking about, and I can demonstrate it through the feedback boxes, then I'm going to mark you competent. I would never ever like to say that a written test is the be-all and end-all of a person's competence. So I've decided to make this person competent. I'll press save, and we will be taken to the excuse me, we're still on the papers received list, sorry, but obviously I'm no longer in it. And if I now go and look at the competence, hopefully I'll see that mine now has a what was it called, train preparation, that mine's now gone to competence. There it is. And the question paper that I took is saved in HOPS. It hasn't gone away anywhere. And in fact, you can see here in the files and evidence column, 1QP. And if I either click on 1QP, and get taken to the detail of the competence, or if I click on the person's name to get taken to the detail of the competence and then click on question papers, I end up in the same place. I'll get the detail of all the question papers that this person has taken in connection with this element. And over the course of a number of years, the question paper will change and the answers will change, and that's all absolutely fine. But here is, just as any other uploaded evidence that you've scanned and uploaded into HOPS, the question paper that that person took forevermore. So if I click on the ID number, it'll take me back to a very similar page to the page where we reviewed it, but it's now got the assessor's remarks in red, and you can't edit it now, of course. And there it is forevermore. And there's a summary of the assessor's remarks at the bottom, which if you print, and I don't think you can see my print dialog box, but I've got my print dialog box on the screen now, and the assessor's remarks go onto a sort of a second page, a back page, to keep them separate from all the the endless questions on all the previous pages. I'll return to the competence element detail. Now, there are a few other ways in which I can sort of get back to this question paper, the ways in which I can find it again if I ever needed to. So first of all, if I look at everybody who's got the train preparation element, of which there is only one person, and I click on the question papers tab in the element, it'll show me all the question papers that have ever been done for this element. Okay, and remember I said you can change the question paper, that's absolutely fine. It'll just have lots of different question papers in here, but it's all the question papers that have ever been done for this element. And I've got the view button there so that I can view in exactly the same way as we just did what the person answered and what the assessor's remarks were and all that stuff. I can also go back to question papers. If I go to the question papers menu and I find that question paper in the admin, where was it? Train preparation, there it is. Remember this page, this page of the website where we added the pages into the question paper? There's an assessments on this paper tab, and if I click on that, it'll show me everybody who's ever done this question paper, regardless of which element it was for. And of course, there's only one because I only just did it. So you can get back to the details of how the questions were answered, either by going to the user and their competence, by going to the element, or by going to the question paper, and you'll see the old question papers in there. They also show in here, even if they haven't yet been reviewed or even if they haven't yet been submitted. So you can see if somebody started one and hasn't yet submitted it, or if it's been submitted but hasn't yet been reviewed. And I'm pretty sure as well that on the admin page, yes, okay, I haven't got, sorry, it's on papers received, I've just remembered. On papers received, as well as all the papers received, down the bottom, question papers that are in progress. Again, just so you can keep an eye on who started the paper but not yet finished it for whatever reason. Right, last couple of little things. I talked about versions of question papers quite a lot, so I'm quickly going to talk about versions now. I'm going to go back to the admin, and I'm going to go to my train preparation exam paper, and I want to add a new question about the preparation of trucks. But before I do, Chris has just asked, can the candidate go back to their marked question paper and see it after it has been marked? No, they can't. They can't. The candidate can't go back and see, mainly for the reason that otherwise they could share all the answers with all their friends. I'm going to add a new question to my preparation of trucks page of this question paper. So I'll go add new, and my question is going to be, what colour is a truck? And I'll make it a multiple choice, and we'll have red, blue, and grey. And of course, the correct answer is red. Is grey, sorry. And I'm going to save it. But of course, some people might be halfway through this test. Some people have already taken this test and they didn't get that question. So I need to have some way of cleverly versioning the tests so that I don't ruin a test that somebody has already taken by adding a question to it that they never even got the opportunity to answer and negatively affecting their score, or that if somebody's halfway through the test, suddenly extra questions start appearing and disappearing and makes it all very difficult. So if you notice, the new question that I just added has appeared in grey because it's not live yet. The text in green there says added in the next version, and the columns that we hadn't looked at before is the applies version from and to columns. These two questions that we added previously applied from version 1 until version forever. This question only appears from version 2. And it's only draft at the moment. We're still on version 1. So even if a user starts taking the question paper now, they will still get only the version 1 stuff because we're not on version 2 yet. And I could sit here all day adding questions, all in readiness for version 2, and no one would see them until I increment the version, as I'm going to do in a minute. We also, in version 2, we don't require this middle question anymore. When preparing a freight train, must we check that the load is properly secured? It's been decided that that question is no longer required. So we'll go remove this question from the next version. And a little clue down here, it says the current version of this question will apply until the end of the current version, version 1. A new version of the question will be created, applicable from version 2. Actually, in this case, sorry, a new version won't be created because I'm clicking remove it from the next version. So I've jumped ahead a bit of myself there. This time the text says removed from next version. The text is still in black because it's still live in the current version. But if you notice over here now, it applies from version 1 till version 1. So when we go to version 2, that one won't apply anymore and it'll disappear. And lastly, on the versioning, lastly on the versioning subject, I want to make an edit to this question to correct a spelling mistake or reword the question so that it's gets the point across a bit better. So I'll change it to say a plank wagon in the siding. So I've changed the question, but I'm sure you can work out what's going to happen. It's not going to apply in version 1. It's only going to apply from version 2. And what's actually happened is we've now got 2 different questions of the same question. Question 4483, which is the current one in black, which is removed from the next version, and it only applies from version 1 to version 1. And a new question, which is extremely similar, but has just got the changed wording on it, which will be added in the next version, and it's in grey. Describe the process for checking the handbrake on a plank wagon in the siding. And there's all the answers. It just made a complete copy of it, but obviously it changed what we wanted it to change, and it also applies only from version 2. So if anyone took this test at the moment, they would get only the stuff that was applicable in version 1. And it doesn't, a question could apply from version 1 to 10. It doesn't have to be just one version. So all sorts of different questions can come and go as we go along. A question has just been asked about how we add images to questions. So I'll edit this question again. And here is a, oh, come on. Oops. Here is a box where we add an accompanying image to the question. We pick the image that we want and we upload it. I'm not going to do it now because, to be completely honest with you, I played with it before we did this video and I have managed to make a slight anomaly in how it works, and so I don't want to demonstrate it. Incidentally, if we had saved a change to this question, it wouldn't create another new version because it knows that the question is not already in use. Nobody's taken this question yet, so it'll just edit the version that's already there. It doesn't matter because we're still on version 1 and this question only applies from version 2. When I've completely finished making all the changes that I want to make, I'll go back to the train preparation menu. I hope that you can still hear me all right because my internet is suddenly going very slowly. And I'll go paper details. And I'll edit the paper details again, exactly the same way as we did when we went from the draft version to version 1. Here we are, current version, increment to version 2. So I'll tick this, save, and it'll increment it to version 2. So now if I go and have a look at the pages, was it preparation of coaches we were in? I've forgotten which one we were in. No, it was in preparation of trucks. Oh no, sorry, it was preparation of coaches. So now you'll notice in preparation of coaches that, no, we were in preparation of trucks, sorry. Preparation of trucks. Here we are. So the only 2 questions that are left now in current and future questions, describe the process for checking the handbrakes, and remember I added in the siding, so that's now the live question, applicable from version 2 until forever. And what colour is a truck was the new question that I added, applicable from version 2 to forever, and we're now on version 2, so anybody that takes the test from now will get those 2 questions. Down the bottom here are the redundant questions crossed out because they only apply from version 1 to version 1, but there they are just so that you can see them if you ever need to. We haven't affected any question papers that have already been taken. It only applies to question papers that are taken from now. Anyone that takes it from now will get version 2. Hugh Parker from the A1 Steam Locomotive Trust has asked, I assume all question papers remain unique to individual HOPS subscribers. Any thoughts of providing a bank of best practice questions for subscribers, PTS, for example? Yes, we have. Yes, we've got lots of future plans for helping railways in common competencies, but we're not there yet. But we will get there eventually, and a lot of stuff, because we see it on all different railways and all different organisations all the time, is the same across every railway. But we need to make sure that we don't, that every railway has the opportunity at least to edit a standard set of questions to fit their own local circumstances. And that's what we I don't think we have the infrastructure to do at the moment. We need something, I think, where you can sort of copy en masse a test and then change it to suit your own local circumstances. And I don't think we quite have that at the moment. So at the moment, it's all completely unique to your own organization. Sorry, one thing is, the only thing I have shared is, I don't know if you remember, probably about a year or two ago, I shared, they're on Facebook, or I can email them to you if you prefer. I shared a bank of signal images that I'd drawn of a signal in the on position, a signal in the off position, a distance signal, a shunting signal, specifically for the purpose of them being used in tests like this one and in your own documentation and everything else. So I have shared that, and if you haven't seen it in an album on Facebook, then please let me know and I will either email it to you or point you in the right direction. Right, last thing that I want to show you on question papers, if I go back to the question papers menu and I look at my list of question papers, you'll notice over here 2 columns that we haven't spoken about, sorry, printer-friendly version and printer-friendly version with answers. And this is designed for if you've got somebody who can't or won't or doesn't want to take their test online. Here's a nice printable version of it for you with boxes for them to write in their name and signature. The same starting information. Obviously, it doesn't say things about forwards and backwards buttons because that's not relevant. And then the test laid out in a test format as you'd expect to see it. Signature boxes for them at the bottom and a big page to write feedback. And then then signature boxes at the bottom. And I know you can't see my print dialog box, but if I were to print it, it prints out nicely on separate pages. So there's like the front page before we get onto the questions, then there's the questions, and each page comes out on a separate page, exactly the same way as if they'd taken it in HOPS. And the last page is the assessor's feedback and signature page, so that it comes out nicely as a print version. And the printer-friendly version plus answers is exactly the same, but it's got the answer scheme on the end. So this is the ideal one for the assessor to have, but obviously not the candidate, because it's got the mark scheme on the end and how many marks are available and what the total marks available are. Okay, if there are any final questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments now, and I will do my best to answer them. So Andy Green from the Cambrian Railway, I think, for records purposes, could an admin put the answers into a HOPS question paper for the candidate that has previously done the paper version? No. I guess in a roundabout way you could admin log in as the person and do it that way, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would say if they've done it on paper, scan the paper and upload that as a normal file in the normal way. I don't think I'd recommend an admin answering the question paper on the candidate's behalf in the system. I think that dilutes the integrity of the evidence a little bit. So no, unfortunately, there isn't a way. That I think is all of the questions that I have had here. I think I've answered everything, but as I say, now's your last chance if you want to add any more questions. Thank you very much to everyone for tuning in, and thank you very much everyone for the fantastic feedback that you're all giving on the live videos. This is the last one that we've got planned at the moment, but I'm sure we'll plan some more, and I suspect the next one that we'll do, which will be sometime next week probably, will be on the mobile version of the signing in and out system, which is now making its way out into production. So tune in for that. Obviously, we will announce by email and on Facebook when the future videos are going to be and what time they are. Thank you very much to Ernest for controlling the auto queue for me with all your questions, because if it wasn't for him, your questions wouldn't get through. Oh, sorry, one last question then from Amanda Thorpe. How do you get someone to retake if they've not passed in one go? That's a really good question. You'll still mark their question paper in the normal way. You'll still review it. When you get to the bottom, you'll still press, I've finished reviewing this question paper, proceed to update the element, and press save. And then when you update the element, you will update it again to awaiting question paper completion. And that will go all the way around again, and it'll start at the beginning, another chance for them to do that question paper. So that's how you do it. Even though their status is already at awaiting question paper, the system recognizes that the question paper they're awaiting for is done. So in order to get it to recognize that we're waiting again for them to do the question paper again, just resave their competence as awaiting question paper. And that's just not a fiddle to make the system work. That's a really useful thing, especially if you write in the comments of why you're updating the competence to be exactly the same as what it was before. You can write in, the person did the question paper and they didn't get enough points, so we require them to do it again, or we require them to go and spend a day doing such and such under supervision and then have another go at doing the question paper, or whatever it is. It's actually really useful and really important to record the fact that they did have a go at it and they didn't do very well, so you've asked them to do whatever and then do the question paper again. And that'll be recorded in the history of their competence, and both and all future instances of them doing that question paper will also be there forever to have a look at. That's one of the occasions where it's really useful to use the randomized question feature, because otherwise they'll get exactly the same questions in exactly the same order again. At least if the questions are randomized on each page, the questions aren't quite presented the same. And if you use the random selection of questions function to give them 4 out of 6, they might well get a different 4. So it just helps things along a little bit, that they're not just having to sit through the same question paper again that they've already done and just try to pick the opposite answers to the answers they picked last time because they can remember what they picked last time. So that's a really good question. Thanks very much. Right, well, thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your comments. We will see you all again. Thank you very much for watching the HOPS Virtual Workshop. Goodbye.